All right, well, it came very quick, but the WNBA regular season ends in under a month, and the Minnesota Lynx are still leading the way at 26-5. And just a week ago, the Lynx were holding steady as the favorite to win the 2025 WNBA championship. However, now the reigning champs have made their way back. New York Liberty are now the favorite to repeat and win the title, and it really all has to do with the Lynx losing their star, Napheesa Collier, for the next couple weeks due to an ankle sprain. We don't know what grade the ankle sprain is, but we know it definitely was not good. So right now, it's between, it's between the Lynx and New York, which, you never know. Maybe we have a really good Indiana Fever team come up, but say we just were looking at those two teams. I'm going to still go with the favorite. I'm going to pick in the majority like everybody else is saying. I'm going to think New York should be the favorite to win. They're going to learn from their mistakes. They haven't been able to defeat Minnesota recently in this season. And Collier going down, like that's your best player, right? When your best player goes down, not only is that a deficit to what happens on the court, but it's also just the team morale. And we've seen this Minnesota team act like it's all good and nothing's going on, and they're very confident in what they're able to do, and they even picked up some trades. But I just really think that this New York team is going to find a way back to the top. But I don't know, favorites, everyone's saying it's going to be the reigning champs. Minnesota definitely shows their hunger and definitely is ready to repeat history and fix that. But who do you think should be the favorite right now?
Well, it's kind of interesting. Just listening to you talk there, it kind of reminds me of like the Minnesota Frost in the PWHL. It's like they just kind of stayed dominant, and it's like it's not like frustrating, but it's like, okay, let's come up with someone new. So I might kind of throw you a curveball here and say I think Minnesota should be the favorite. I think the Lynx have my support in this. They're 27-5 this season, and even though Collier went down, they still did okay. And we've talked about that plenty of times before where like you lose a player, but the team comes together and finds a way to put together a win. I mean, they still, are a dominant team. I think they've got my vote for sure. I think the Lynx is kind of who I'm going with here. And I think they want that back. They want last year back, of course. Like it's the chip on the shoulder. I feel like that always helps teams play a little extra with a little extra oomph, I think.
Definitely. And they think Collier will be back. Like, they definitely are very positive about that. But let's get into the injury a little bit, because it was huge news in the WNBA. She got injured against the Las Vegas Aces when they were up 43 points in the third quarter. Like, I was watching this game, I saw it, and then I rewatched all the stats. I'm like, was it really in the third quarter? And they were up that much, and she was still in the game, and she got hurt. Absolute blow. And they ended up winning the game 111-58. So a lot of people were saying you were gonna win the game. So let's hear from the head coach on Napheesa Collier's injury immediately after the game.
I don't want to question you because you know better than I do, but does it make you think I shouldn't have her in it?
No, I don't think about those things. There's a third quarter of a game, on someone else's floor. I don't think the game is over. I don't think like that. She had a sub there, and she wasn't going to play in the fourth quarter. Sometimes these things happen, and I get it. People are going to rail on me, and that's part of sitting in the seat that I'm sitting in. But we did what we think was right, and sometimes these things happen, and unfortunate, and hopefully she'll be okay.
She said she didn't think the game was over. But you're up 43 points in the third quarter. And I don't know. My perspective is like, yes, you want to go at teams, run the score up. This is pro sports. That's fine. I'm all about being as competitive as you can. But if you can't hold a lead, 43 points for one quarter in the fourth quarter, then you're in a bad place. Something's going on. So I really think there's some type of game management. And also, you want your star players and your starters to be fresh for your next game. So I think, as a coach, you don't want to say I regret doing this. There's some professionalism of holding some of the truth back, right? You don't want to be processing in front of the media. Maybe she's now processed that and be maybe I should not play her as much. But I don't know. I think to me that was not an awesome move, leaving her in the game. But you got to just think, hey, we're already high in the standings. Regardless, we know we're going to make the playoffs. We're going to be a top seed. Just feel like what's the risk reward there, leaving your best player in?
I mean, I think that's the biggest angle to this too, is they are not in the most important time of year yet. Playoffs are still ahead, and I think you kind of, if I were a coach, I think there would be a way to ration out playing time for some of my best players if I knew that they were a little banged up. And I think that's a really good point, because it's do you risk some of your best players? Do you risk potentially doing more damage and losing them when it does matter most? And I think that's kind of one of those things where it's I don't know. You might not want to overplay someone that you really need in the long run. So I don't know. Maybe you're right. Like maybe she was processing it in front of the media, but I mean, they're all competitors, especially Collier, because it's one of those things where it's like athletes, you don't want to, like, athletes don't like being told you got to sit down, right?
And
like
there's a part of it too is like, okay, we're not even at playoffs yet. I still need my top players to be conditioned and to get that work in, to know what it feels like to play in a fourth quarter. Like that happens across every league, is you keep your starters in even if you're up, just for the reps and for the practice. But when these things happen, it probably not only makes Minnesota check twice about who they have in the game, but also every other team in the league. You know, the Fever is now checking, maybe we shouldn't keep our stars in as long as we want. And even New York at the same time, I bet, they have Breanna Stewart out too right now. So lots of injuries that are happening in the WNBA and a lot of things to be careful when you are in that top seed. You have that ability to not be on the buffer and have to know that if we don't make this game, we might be on that number 8 spot, not making the WNBA playoffs. All right, well, let's get to the game that happened on Sunday. The Minnesota Lynx beat the New York Liberty 83-71. So they were very happy about taking back almost a championship. You can call it a championship rematch, but I feel like it's really not there until you get into the playoffs. And this was the first game between these two teams in the Barclays Center in New York since they took home the title in Game 5 last year. So you can imagine just the emotions that were probably they were feeling just being back in that same arena, understanding, last time, like, we know how this went. It's got to just feel not great, but also at the same time, like a true hunger and a desire to win when you're in that same stadium.
Yeah, we were talking about this before the break, but like the chip on your shoulder kind of thing, it's like all athletes, all teams kind of tend to play that way where it's like, we know what happened here last year. I know a lot of coaches too will lead their team like, hey, let's acknowledge the past. Let's acknowledge what happened, but let's take care of business tonight where our feet are. And I think Minnesota was considered the road underdog here. And I think, it was one of those situations where it's like, how is Minnesota going to play without Collier? But they came in, they pulled it together, they walked out with the win, and I think it was, great win, great character win, too, for the team.
Definitely, and a team that probably didn't feel as great of a great character win was the New York Liberty. So let's hear from their head coach, Sandy Bordello, after the game.
I give Minnesota credit. We didn't make them feel uncomfortable, and they made us feel really uncomfortable. And we lacked a little bit of discipline and how we wanted to run it, and we weren't on our front foot. We some of the passes we threw, no one was open, especially into the. I don't know what we're looking at. I think we were just a little bit rattled. We got to settle them down. I've got to do a better job of settling them down there, and because usually against this team in the last game we didn't have many turnovers, but we gave them offensive rebounds, and that was another area that has been hurting us, and we've got to be better. So, like I said, Minnesota just. Right now, have played a little harder, and more intentional than we did today.
I wrote down a few words and phrases that Bordello said in that short clip. She said, we weren't on our front foot. We were rattled. And I needed, as a coach, she was saying, like, I probably needed to do a better job of settling them down. And I'm looking at these 3 phrases of, like, settle down, rattled, and weren't on our front foot. And I'm thinking, you're at home.
Yeah.
Like, you're the defending champs. You're the aggressor. You are in a really tight race for the number 1 spot in the WNBA standings. Like, what is there to fear? And maybe just, I don't know, maybe it was a fear factor of, okay, we know they've beaten us multiple times already this season. Maybe they knew Stewart was out and they felt uncomfortable about that. I don't really know, but I'm just looking at the way that she said the game went for them. And I feel like that is a full character, and those are controllable things.
Yeah.
It's not saying like, our ball movement was bad or we didn't hustle. Like, those are very controllable things.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. You said it almost seemed like they were playing with a little bit of fear, kind of like timid or something. And I wrote down, like, it seemed like Minnesota had, like, they played with intention. They were intentional with how they were kind of attack them on their Achilles heel is what I wanted to say, because, of course, Bordello talked about offensive rebounds. They've been hurting us. We need to be better there. So, of course, Minnesota, they watch game tape. Like, they know what New York is going through. They know how to attack them. And it's like they went in with an intention. They went in knowing what they wanted to do, the game plan. I mean, that's as easy said right there. They had a game plan. They executed on it and caught New York on their heels.
They did. And there's still a lot of games left in the regular season, which is just crazy. I feel like their season goes on forever. And that's probably why the New York players were able to be like, we're good. Like, we got to fix some things. It wasn't our best showing, and come back can come back out and really turn it around, because what you need, these losses before the postseason are really helpful. You know, you never want to lose, but they're actually in the perfect spot because you're sitting at the New York Liberty number 2, Lynx are right above them. You have the Dream, and there's kind of a fall off after number 2 spot. So make the mistakes while you have the luxury of keeping that top seed for the playoffs and getting to host a home game, you know, first round, because that's important. Other teams don't have that luxury. So New York, you're good. You have time and space, but
don't panic.
Don't panic. But yeah, I'm really interested to see where this WNBA playoff race goes. I'm looking at number 8 spot. The Valkyries are holding it right now. They're the team that's in their inaugural season, and it's just fun for us to get to talk on the show about the softball league that's in the inaugural season. Last year with the PWHL, hopefully the WLL and other leagues to come, but it's all exciting stuff. But yeah, just to see the Valkyries coming up at that number 8 spot is pretty wild. So hopefully we'll see if they can make the playoffs.